So have you ever heard of Black Moon Lilith in the birth chart? Okay, this is sometimes an underrated aspect of the chart that people or astrologers don't acknowledge, but it's actually an aspect that I'm so obsessed with, which is why I've become the Lilith therapist. Yes, hi, I'm Lisa. I am a licensed therapist who's also an astrologer, and so I practice astrotherapy, where we bring the astrology into the therapy room. So, Lilith is one of my absolute favorite topics because she is such a juicy archetype to get to know, and she lives in your chart, and there is so much to unpack here. So, if you haven't heard the story of Lilith, that doesn't surprise me because usually most people have just heard the story of Adam and Eve, right? But before Adam and Eve, there was actually Adam and Lilith. So, I'm going to give you a short little story here. No, this is not a Bible account, this is astrology, but here we go, okay? So, one version of the story goes that before it was Adam and Eve, it was actually Adam and Lilith, and they were made from the dirt and they were equals, okay? Now, when it came time for Adam and Lilith to essentially bone down, Lilith refused to be submissive to Adam. So essentially, she refused to be just on the bottom. She wanted to be on top. She wanted equality. She wanted to fight for her own pleasure, okay? Now, Adam was not down for this, and essentially, because she refused to be submissive, she was literally exiled from the Garden of Eden, okay? Now, essentially, I think they tried to bring Lilith back, but she refused to come back. She's like, screw that. I'm not going back there. I'm going to do my own thing, okay? I'm going to be in my power. So from there on out, essentially, Lilith is demonized. Like in so many religious texts, they call her a demon who eats babies, right? Or her story is erased entirely, which is why you've probably heard mostly of just Adam and Eve and not Lilith, right? So it's really interesting to think about in our culture why Lilith is either erased entirely or is completely demonized, okay? And it really relates to a lot of the patriarchal energy, which is something we can talk about more in depth on this account over time. But essentially, this archetype exists in the myths, right? The stories, but also it exists in your birth chart, okay? So this Lilith archetype who's been shamed and exiled, but is also a character who's very much in her power, right? Lives in your chart, and it's Black Moon Lilith. And essentially, what this part of your chart can show you is it can show you an area or a theme in your life, some place where you've been shamed, embarrassed, wounded, maybe had your power taken away from you, somebody trying to control you. But ultimately, it's actually an area of your life where you have so much power if you're able to do some healing work and reclaim it. Because ultimately, once you make your Lilith conscious and do some healing work around it, it can actually become your superpower. And your Lilith sign and house can give you so many clues around just not only what needs to be healed within you, but also where you can really embody your power. And it's your personal gift in this life. So if you want to learn more about Black Moon Lilith, hang around on this account. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to talk about the different signs it can be in and the houses, and just really getting to know this archetype because she's fascinating. And I'm seeing Lilith show up more and more in the astrological conversations, and I feel like she's a very valuable character. So thanks for listening, and let's see where else we'll go on this Lilith journey.